Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Raghupati Raghav, Raja Ram, Patita Pavan Raghupati Raghav Raja Patita Pavan Sita Sitaram Jai Sitaram Raghupati Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschata Deshatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so Ramayan. Actually, I'm sure in India, everyone grows up with Ramayan stories, right? They grow up with Ramayan stories, but without proper understanding. One thing that people say in India, Krishna came after, Ram came before. Therefore, Ram is more important, or Ram is senior. They don't understand that. First of all, they don't understand that there's no difference between Ram and Krishna. So, Ramchandra is Marjada Purushottam, whereas Krishna is the Lila Purushottam. And our understanding is that Prabhupada especially very emphatically pointed out that we must properly understand Lord Ramchandra's pastimes. Marjada Purushottam, Lord Ramchandra is actually teaching us how we should behave, how we should act, what is the appropriate qualities that a leader must have. And whereas Krishna is Leela Purushottam, Krishna he doesn't care about what others think. He is simply concerned about his own pastimes, own loving exchange with his most intimate devotees. That pastimes is, Krishna's pastimes are actually just you can say, a confidential relationship between Krishna and his intimate devotees. Most intimate devotees. Whereas Ramachandra's pastimes are a public demonstration. Everybody can have access to Ramachandra's pastimes. And anyway, we have to understand that one thing that we have to very seriously understand, that the spiritual knowledge has become practically lost. Even in India, people don't have any knowledge about because of impersonalism, Mayavad philosophy, they have been totally confused. They think the God is Supreme Personality of Godhead is without a form. They are concerned about only Brahman, and that's the problem with the Mayavad philosophy. They think that the avatars or incarnations are transformations of Brahman. Brahman in mode of goodness is incarnation, avatar. They have the form. These forms are, Narayan forms are, or Lord's forms are the Brahman in mode of goodness. And living entities, especially human beings, are Brahman in mode of passion. Therefore, when a human being becomes a sannyasi or goes from passion to goodness, then he becomes Narayan. Anyway, it's just a hodgepodge theory. And that has confused the entire population of India. All these, you see, these sadhus, like they have given up their whole life and they have given up everything. There's so many of them, you see, they come to places like holy places of pilgrimage. But they all are confused. They think that Brahma is ultimate and the forms are material. Even Lord's form is material. But what is the real understanding? What is Brahman? Brahman is the bodily effulgence of Param Brahma. Brahman is not the ultimate. The ultimate is Param Brahma. Supreme Brahman. And who is that Supreme Brahman? Supreme Brahman is Krishna. As Arjuna is addressing him. Parang Brahma, Parang Dhama, Pavitrang Paramang Bhavan. So Param Brahma, they don't have any they don't go up to Param Brahma, they just get stuck in Brahman. And that Param Brahma, yes, Brahman doesn't have any form. Brahman is energy. Energy doesn't have any form. Just as this light is energy, does it have any form? No. But the source of this light has a form. Even if you consider the source, what is the source of the light? The generator. Does the generator have form? Or generator is without form? Similarly, the spiritual energy, Brahman, is coming from Param Brahma. Brahma doesn't have form, but Param Brahma has a form. And that is Krishna. His bodily effulgence is Brahma Jyoti, which permeates the whole spiritual domain. Just as in this world also, this world is lit up with what? The rays from the sun. From one sun, the light is coming. Similarly, in the spiritual world, from Krishna, the whole spiritual world is effulgent. Anyway, at least we have been able to transcend those misconceptions by Srila Prabhupada's mercy. It is due to Srila Prabhupada, today we can say that we have become situated in proper knowledge, isn't it? How many of you think that you have the perfect understanding now? Please raise your hands. Yes, we have the perfect understanding now. Everything has become clear. So, discussing about Lord Ramchandra and discussing about Krishna Chandra, there is no difference. But there is a difference of their pastimes. Lord Ram appeared as a prince. But the Lord acts in such a way. There's another thing here also we should consider, is that why does the Lord perform these pastimes? Why does he come here and perform his pastimes? Performing his pastimes has two objectives. One is to entertain his devotees. These are the two main purposes. One is to entertain or give pleasure to his devotees. Everywhere the Lord has his devotees, especially in this earth planet. And in this planet the Lord has this loving, he comes to have his loving exchange with his devotees. That is one purpose of his coming. And not only that he comes to perform his pastimes with his devotees, but through these activities with his devotees, he entertains everybody. Isn't it wonderful to listen to Lord's pastimes? And the other thing is, other purpose of his coming here and performing his pastimes is to educate people. And the education is simple. A simple education. What happens when you surrender to him, and what happens when you go against him? Isn't it through that act? Like in the past times, just like in a drama. In a drama, three things must be there. The hero, the villain, and the heroine. So similarly, in Lord's pastimes also, the Lord is the hero and there are villains. In every pastimes you'll find some villains. And the heroine, the Lord's eternal consort, is the heroine. And oftentimes what happens in a drama? The villain tries to kidnap the heroine and like that. Or there is a competition between the hero and the villain. Who will win the heroine? I mean, and this is what creates the conflict. And there is anybody who studied drama knows that the drama must have conflict. And greater the conflict, better the drama. And we can see in the Lord's pastimes, how wonderful drama it is. So the Lord appeared in a very, very illustrious family. This family actually hails from Manu. And who is Manu? Who is Manu? Manu is Brahma's son. Brahma had 4 sons, 4 Kumaras. Shanak, Shanatan, Sanandan and Sanat Kumar. And he then produced 10 more sons. Now Brahma did not need a female consort to produce. He could produce children from his mind. That's how powerful he is. So Brahma from his mind created these 10 sons, Manasa Putras, mental children. Pulasta, Pulaha, Kratu, Angira, Marichi, Vashishta, Daksha. And then also Narad is the youngest. Then Brahma created from his right hand side, one personality appeared. That is Manu. And from his left hand side, another personality appeared, Satarupa. The first male and first female. And from Manu came Manavas, the human beings. We all came from Manu. Therefore, we are Manushas. We are men and women. Scholars coming from Manu. Human, man, Manava, Manushya. Then Manu's son is Ikshaku. Remember in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, was the first verse? Imang vivashyate yogang praktavan aham abbayam vivashwan manave praho manur ikshakuve abravit. There are 14 Manus. The first Manu is Vaivashyata Manu. First Manu is Swayambhuva Manu. That's Manu that came from Brahma. And then another Manu came from sun god, Vivashwan. As Krishna mentioned, he gave this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita first to Vivashwan. Then Vivashwan gave it to his son, Manu, Vaivashyata Manu, who is the ruler of this domain, this phase of Brahma's day, Manvantar. And then Manu gave it to Ikshaku. And there comes, like Rajarshayo Vidu. From Ikshaku comes a line of saintly kings, Raja, Rishi. They're kings, but they are sages, they are rishis, Rajarshis. So Lord Ramchandra appeared in this line. This way we can see that these are not just some fairy tales. These are most authentic and most advanced civilization, culture. This is the line from Manu to Ikshaku. In this way, there is a line, one after another. The lineage is there. One after another king's name is there. And then it comes down to one king called Aja. And then Aja's son is Dasharath. Dasharath was the king of the region called Ayodhya. Ayodhya. And he's a very powerful king, so powerful that he could even fight on behalf of the demigods. Demigods invited him. We are having difficulties to deal with these demons. So can you please come and help? So that is how powerful these kings were, how Dasharath was. And his kingdom was Ayodhya. And this Ayodhya was built by Manu, Vaivashyata Manu. The city that was built by Vaivashyata Manu. And this Ramayan, description of Ramayan is presented by Valmiki. And Valmiki, it is said that Valmiki actually wrote Ramayan even before Lord Rama appeared. How is it possible? The possibility is that these personalities can see the activities of the Lord in their heart. When the Lord would come, what he would do. So they could actually describe the activities. And we get to see so many such instances. Do you remember that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to Vrindavan? And he went to North Bengal, and from North Bengal he was going to Bihar, and then from Bihar he was going to Vrindavan. And then one devotee, what's the name of the devotee? Yeah, Nishingananda Brahmachari. So he was seeing he predicted that he will go up to Kanai Natshala and then he won't go beyond that. And that's what happened. He went up to in the part of Bihar, Bengal border, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't go any further beyond that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had his reason, but Nishingananda Brahmachari already predicted that Mahaprabhu is not going to go to Vrindavan. He'll go up to Kanai Natshala. How could he figure out? Because he was seeing his pastimes in his heart, what the Lord would do. And he was actually making the roads made of flower in his mind. Mahaprabhu is traveling and the roads were made of flowers. And up to he couldn't go, his vision broke at that point. So that he knew that he's not going to go. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't go any further. He said that with so many people, one shouldn't go to Vrindavan, with so many people following him. One should go to Vrindavan to meditate on Radha Krishna's pastimes, meditate on Krishna's pastimes. So with so many people, so much clamor, so much noise. So Mahaprabhu returned to Puri. And next time he went in a totally different route, through the forest. He didn't want to take anybody with him. He wanted to go alone. But Nityananda Prabhu insisted that take one person at least. Mahaprabhu's point was that if I take somebody and others, then we'll feel bad that I have taken him and he didn't take others. So Nityananda Prabhu suggested there is a new person. So if you take him, then no one will become envious of him. That was Balabhadra Bhattacharya. Anyway, so it's not uncommon for devotees to see the pastimes of the Lord. Valmiki is a great devotee of Lord Ramchandra. So he could see his pastimes and he wrote it down, narrated it. So another way to look at it is also, these pastimes are repeating time and time again. It's not that the Lord is performing the pastimes only once. As the time moves, his pastimes also repeats. Anyway, so Valmiki actually wrote Ramayan with 24,000 verses, 24,000 shlokas. This is another thing. The British made the world to believe that India was an uncultured, uncivilized country. And they did it so expertly that even the Indians felt that they are uncivilized, uncultured people. The only culture is the British culture, Sahib's culture. But we can see that these writings are not only writings in prose form. Writing, what is more difficult, to write prose or write poetry? Poetry is so much more difficult. And why poetry? Because the poetry you can sing. Prose you cannot sing. Poetry is meant to be sung. So can you see how advanced these people must have been, that they wrote the descriptions of the Lord's pastimes in poetry. I mean, there are so many ways we can see it. The language is one thing. From that we can understand how civilized or how advanced those people are. How do the people in the forest, aborigines, speak? Or let's go beyond that. How do the animals speak? Do they have grammar? Okay, let's go a little further. The aborigines, the Adivasis, the forest dwellers. What is their language like? How do the village people speak? How do the townspeople speak? How do the city people speak? Doesn't it get more and more refined and more refined and more expression of culture? So I'm just giving a context, example in today's context. But the thing is that it's not a matter of living in a village or living in cities. Like most of these saintly personalities, they used to live in a forest. But the forest was not just forest. They made such a beautiful arrangement in those forests. The Tapovan, Ban, forest, but which is meant for performing their spiritual practices. And they used to have a garden. It used to be a garden. And in the garden there used to be fruits and flowering trees. And that used to be on the bank of a river because water is essential. And there used to be even animals, deers, peacocks, and naturally cows. So anyway, when you look at it from that point of view, we can see how advanced the Vedic culture was. The Vedic culture was so, India's heritage is so divine and so advanced. So, so Dasarath was the king of Ayodhya, and Dasarath was a very, very powerful king. But Dasarath didn't have a son. Actually, I think everybody wants to have a son, right? All the parents want to have a son in order to carry their family line. Because if there is no son, then the line breaks. The daughters do not retain the family line. The daughter's line is actually husband's line. Daughter is not the father's property. Is it sounding too unacceptable? Fathers of the daughters are considered to be the custodian. They take care of the daughter only up to a certain age. And then they hand the daughter over to the real proprietor, the husband. And that's the Vedic culture. And then she acquires that gotra. Gotra means family line. And for a king, it is very important to have a son, because his kingdom has to have a successor. Somebody has to inherit the kingdom. So that's why it was very, very, they consider it to be very essential to have a son. And but Dasarath didn't have a son. He had 3 wives, Kaushalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi. But he didn't get any son from them. You remember Chitraketu? Chitraketu had 1,000 wives. Still he couldn't get a son. But eventually he got a son. So this is how we can see, this is how we can see that how it is important. It's considered, father or parents consider it's important to have a son. So Maharaj Dasarath was advised by his minister that you perform a yajna. And in order to get a son. But who will perform the yajna? He was advised that there is a very, very powerful son of a sage. His name is Rishashringa. He should perform. And anyway, that's another, actually, these narrations sidetrack into different other activities. So it was another story how Rishashringa was brought to Ayodhya to perform the sacrifice. So he was a very, anyway, like he was brought into Ayodhya and performed the Ashramid Yajna. The Yajna was perfectly executed, but he still suggested that you perform another yajna called Putreshti, a yajna in order to get a son. And when King Dasarath was lamenting, or he was heartbroken that he didn't have a son, but his minister, Sumantra, actually advised him that don't worry. Don't worry, because the once 4 Kumaras told me that you'll have 4 sons. And he actually suggested that you perform Ashramid Yajna to have the son. So the Putreshti Yajna was performed, and then from the sacrificial fire, personality appeared with a pot of sweet rice. This personality was the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His bodily complexion was just like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And his features were also like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he is in spiritual world, the residents also have the same form like the Lord, called Sarupya. Same form. He came with a pot of sweet rice, gave it to King Dasarath, and said, offer this sweet rice to your queen, and he'll have a child. So Dasarath then, he had 3 queens, so he took the sweet rice and he distributed it among all 3 queens. First he divided into half, and he gave the half to the principal queen, Kaushalya. And then he took the 1/4 and gave it to his second queen, Sumitra. And he took the portion, divided into half, and gave it to Kaikeyi. And then after a little deliberation, he gave the remaining 1/8 also to her. And as a result of that, 4 sons were born. Ram from Kaushalya, Lakshman from Sumitra, Bharat and Satrughna from Kaikeyi. So all these 4 personalities are actually the 4 incarnations of the Lord. Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. Lord Ram was the incarnation of Vasudev. Lakshman was the incarnation of Balaram, Shankarshan, and Pradyumna and Aniruddha, Bharat and Satrughna. So the children now are of marriageable age. So Dasarath was consulting with his minister Sumantra that they became grown up, they should get married. Please consider a suitable wives who can be the suitable wife. And at that time, a very powerful sage appeared there. His name is Vishwamitra. So the kings of those days, actually everyone those days was very respectful towards the saintly personalities. We can see how different those days used to be. Now they see a sadhu and they shut the door right in front of their face. But those days, the kings used to make the sadhu to come and sit on the throne. He would vacate the throne himself. Please come, sit here. And treat him with utmost respect and honor. And then he would request him, please tell me, what can I do for you? So then Vishwamitra said, look, I have come here with a specific purpose. I am performing sacrifice in my ashram. But there are two demons who are actually associates of Ravan. They are spoiling the sacrifice all the time. So Dasharatha said, so, okay, fine. I'll go and take care of those demons. Vishwamitra said, no. I don't want you to come. I want Ram to come. When he heard that, Dasharatha fainted. When he came back to his senses again, he said that, see, Ram is totally inexperienced. He never been to a battlefield. He has his training, but he never went to the battlefield. So, better that I go with my army and I'll take care of them. I have taken care of so many demons. Then Vishwamitra said that if I wanted you, then I would have told you to come. I have asked Ram to come. So when Vishwamitra insisted that way, then Dasharatha fainted again. But this time when he came back to his senses, Vashishta is the guru of that family. So Vashishta told that, look, when Vishwamitra is asking Ram, there must be a reason. And you see, Vishwamitra is so powerful that he could kill all those demons himself. But he is not doing that because as a rishi, as a brahmana, one doesn't resort to violence. And if he takes Ram, you can rest assured that Ram is capable of killing those demons. And incidentally, Vashishta actually knew who Ram is. But he didn't disclose it to Dasharatha. He knew that Ram is an incarnation of Vishnu, therefore nothing to worry about. But he pacified him in this way, that let him go, and Vishwamitra will obviously give protection to Ram. And also Vishwamitra has many celestial weapons. So he'll give all those weapons to Ram. So then Dasharatha, being advised by his guru in this way, he accepted, but also with a trembling heart, that this boy, how is he going to fight? And the name of Ravan actually used to cause them, fear in their hearts. One of Dasharatha's ancestors was actually killed by Ravan. So they had their fear for Ravan. Anyway, so he let Ram go with Vishwamitra. And Ram and Lakshman were inseparable. So Lakshman also said, I will go. So Vishwamitra said, okay, fine, you can come with him. So Vishwamitra took them. Then they came to in the evening, they came to a bank of a river, Tamasha, and he told Ram, after he took his bath, to come to him, and he gave him a mantra that would make Ram not to feel tired at any condition. He'll never feel tired. He'll have... actually, these are the pastimes of the Lord. The Lord, obviously, where's the question of Ram becoming tired? But through the devotees, these kind of pastimes are enacted and arranged as if Vishwamitra gave him. And Vishwamitra also gave him the celestial weapons. And that night, when terrible demoness came, roaring, and Vishwamitra told Ram, kill him. Kill her. So that was a Taraka Rakshashi. And Taraka was the mother of these two demons who were plundering Vishwamitra's Yajna, Marichi and Subahu. So Ram killed Taraka with a shoot an arrow. She was killed. Ram was lamenting, my God, like the first person I had to kill is a woman. Krishna also felt the same way. The first person I had to kill, Putana, a woman. So, and then, Taraka was killed. And then they came to Vasishta's ashram. Ram and Lakshman were guarding. The yajna is about to be completed. And then they heard the sound. And then these two demons came from the sky. They're terrible looking demons. And they were trying to vitiate the atmosphere, pollute the atmosphere. So Ram shoot an arrow that struck Marichi, and took him 8,000 miles away and landed him in the ocean. And with the other arrow, he just killed Subahu. So this is how Vishwamitra's yajna was properly performed without any hindrance. And then all the sages were talking among themselves that they're going to the kingdom of King Janak. And Vishwamitra also told Ram, there is this king, very famous king called Janak, very pious king, and he has a bow that was actually Lord Shiva's bow, Haradhanu. So when, as a Kshatriya, you see, when they hear about weapons, they become excited. Ram said, I'll go out to see that bow. So Vishwamitra said, okay, let's go. So they came, and Vishwamitra introduced Ram and Lakshman as the two sons of King Dasarath. Janak naturally was aware of King Dasarath, and so that thing was brought, the bow was brought. It was carried in a cart with 28 wheels and pushed by hundreds of people. It was so big and so heavy. And Ram was very excited to see that. And then Janak actually told, you see, I have a very special daughter. And I made a condition that whoever will be able to string this bow will be able to marry this daughter of mine, Sita. So Ram said, okay. And Janak also told that many kings and princes have come to string the bow. And not only they didn't succeed, many of them got injured. Like when they bent the bow but couldn't, and that bow sprang up and broke their bones and things. So Ram was curious to see the bow. And so Janak actually mentioned that the condition that whoever can string the bow will be able to marry Sita. Why is that? Because Janak could understand that this girl is a very special one. So she should be married to somebody who is of her status. Like he suspected that this girl must be someone who is of the nature like Parvati or Lakshmi. Therefore, who can get married to Parvati? Only Lord Shiva. Or someone who is even more exalted, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So he had a feeling that this girl is actually Lakshmi Devi. Therefore, he felt that only Narayan should marry. So Ram saw the bow, and with his left hand, he lifted the bow. Everyone was surprised. So easily he lifted the bow, where everyone had to struggle to lift it. And not only that, he pressed the bow on the end of the bow on the ground, and he bent it, strung it. And as he bent it, the bow snapped. And it said that it created such a sound, such a thunderous sound, that everyone there, excepting Janak and Sita, Ram, Lakshman and Vishwamitra, everyone fainted, hearing that sound. So then the news was sent to Dasarath that Janak, daughter Sita, illustrious daughter of Janak, Ram has fulfilled the condition by not only stringing the bow, but breaking the bow. So please come, make arrangements for your daughter, for your son's wedding. So getting the news, Dasarath became very excited, and with his entourage and family, he just came to Mithila, and the wedding was arranged. Incidentally, Sita at that time was 9 years old. So this is the Vedic culture again. At a very young age, the girls were married, given in marriage. And then Dasarath had other 3 daughters. There, Urmila. Urmila was married to Lakshman. Then Mandavi was married to Bharat, and Shrutakirti was married to Satrugna. So all 4 sons got married. In a grand way, the marriage ceremony was celebrated, and Dasarath now is returning with the children back to Ayodhya. Very happy that he was thinking of the sons getting married, and now they were such illustrious wives. Now on the way, all of a sudden, some inauspicious signs started to show up. The animals started to move on the left-hand side, and all of a sudden, seemed everything became so silent, and so ominous. And then they saw one personality coming. His hair was matted hair was the color of copper. He had a very, very powerful form. Dasarath could recognize that this is Parashuram. Parashuram is an incarnation of the Lord also. And Parashuram wiped out the Kshatriyas 21 times. 21 times he slaughtered, killed all the Kshatriyas. So he wanted to, because the Kshatriyas became very, very arrogant and very puffed up. So he was the one who actually came to chastise them, to correct them. So seeing him, Dasarath became very worried. So Parshuram, Dasarath offered obeisances to him and pleaded him, please tell us what we can do for you. We are your servant. Parshuram said, I have nothing to do with you. I heard this boy, he broke the bow of Lord Shiva, so arrogant. So in this way he decided that he would challenge Ram to a fight. Dasarath almost fainted just seeing the condition. But then before that he made a condition that, okay, you broke the bow of Lord Shiva. Now this is the bow of Lord Vishnu. Let me see whether you can string it. If you can, then I'll fight with you. So Ram took that bow, and at that time Parashuram's body became emaciated and black, as if he lost all his potency. Parashuram came with a mission, that he was empowered by the Lord to chastise the disobedient, immoral Kshatriyas. Now that the mission is accomplished, and now the Lord has come himself, what did he do? The power that he invested to him, he took it away. So then Parshuram, Ram said then, so now I have strung the bow, arrow on the bow, so tell me, where should I shoot that arrow? And he shot the arrow to take away all the pious activities of Parashuram. And since then Parashuram is still alive and he is wandering around in Mahendra mountain. And so there are some personalities who are still, they're immortal. Immortal means they'll die at the end of the Brahma's day. Parshuram is one of them. Ashwatthama is another one. So now Ram came back, and Ram was very, very popular. And Ram had some qualities. One of the noble quality of Ram is he always kept the association of pious people. He never associated with impious people. He always associated with the superiors to receive knowledge, and he gave protection to the subordinates. So this is how Ram was displaying the qualities of a king, the quality of a leader. And he was so humble, and he was so respectful towards his superiors, and he was so respectful towards the saintly personalities. But at the same time, he used to punish the wrongdoers. When somebody did something wrong, he would immediately punish him. And he rewarded those who were pious and meritorious. So these are from Lord Ram's pastimes. We get to see how a person in leadership position must act. Like leaders must be subordinate to the superiors, and leaders must be shelter to the subordinates. The leaders must reward the pious and the meritorious ones, and those who are sinful and miscreants must chastise them and punish them. So this is how, especially a king, should rule his kingdom. So, at one time, Dasarath, seeing Ram's noble qualities and Ram's wonderful nature, and how everyone was so appreciative of him, so Dasarath decided to make Ram the crown prince, so that in course of time he would become the king. So that was a great news, but at that time, unfortunately, Bharat and Satrughna was there in their maternal uncle's house. And so the arrangement was made that Ram would be coronated as the crown prince, and then the whole kingdom was vibrant with jubilation, the great festivity. And so arrangement was made that the next day Ram will be coronated. And Kaikeyi was watching from her palace top. And Kaikeyi had a maidservant called Manthara. See, those days when a girl got married, especially the princess got married, from her father's side, from the kingdom side, many persons also, her friends used to come to live with her. And so this Manthara was actually an apsara. But this Manthara was sent by the demigods to expedite Ravan's death. So this is another thing about the pastimes. Like it seems things happening in a certain way, but actually all these scenes are arranged with a divine arrangement by Lord's internal potency called Yogamaya. So Manthara was going to, Kaikeyi was looking at, so Manthara asked, what happened? What's happening? Why do you seem to be so happy? And I mean, although she was actually an apsara, but in this form she was a hideous-looking hunchback woman. Very, very ugly and hunchbacked. So she came and asked. So Kaikeyi said, oh, don't you know that tomorrow Ram is getting coronated? He said, what? Actually, now there is a history also. Like, when Dasarath did not get any son, and he wanted to marry Kaikeyi, she was an extremely beautiful princess, the daughter of the king of Kekaya. And so king of Kekaya made a condition that Kaikeyi's son, I'll offer her to you provided that her son becomes the king. So already Dasharatha did not have any son. So he thought that if he has a son, then if he gets a son through Kaikeyi, yeah, sure, he'll become. So he agreed that Kaikeyi's son will become the king.